There are moments in life when everything you've tried seems to fail. You've prayed, you've planned, you've pushed with all your strength, but the situation still refuses to move. It feels as if heaven is silent and your efforts have fallen into emptiness. But my friend, when you reach that place, when you can't fix it anymore, that's when God is about to reveal His plan. For God never leaves what He has created without purpose. Every delay, every closed door, every heartbreak is a thread in His greater design. Sometimes we are so focused on trying to repair what is broken that we forget who the true builder is. You see, when you try to fix what only God can restore, you end up exhausting your faith instead of exercising it. There comes a time when you must take your hands off the wheel and say, Lord, I've done all I can, now it's in your hands. And when you say that with a sincere heart, you release heaven's authority into your situation. The moment you surrender control, God begins to move in ways you cannot see. The scripture reminds us that His thoughts are not our thoughts, and His ways are not our ways. What looks like an ending to you may be a beginning to Him. What you see as loss, He may see as preparation. Sometimes He allows certain things to remain unfixed so that we can discover His power, not ours. There is divine wisdom in your waiting and heavenly purpose in your pain. God's plan is never delayed, it's simply unfolding at the pace your faith can handle. Remember Joseph, sold as a slave, forgotten in prison, betrayed by his brothers. If Joseph tried to fix his situation by his own strength, he would have missed the palace that awaited him. But he didn't fight to escape God's plan, he trusted it. What others meant for evil, God turned into good. Likewise, your broken pieces are not the end of your story. They are the foundation upon which God will build something glorious. When you stop striving and start trusting, God turns your prison into a promotion. Some of you are facing things that no human hand can fix: a sick loved one, a shattered dream, a marriage on the edge, a future that seems uncertain. You've tried every method, every idea, and nothing seems to work. But the truth is, it's not your job to fix it. It's your job to believe. Faith is not about seeing results instantly. It's about resting in the confidence that God already has a plan. While you are worrying about tomorrow, God is already arranging your deliverance today. While you're crying over what's lost, God is preparing what's coming next. The peace of God doesn't come when everything is fixed. It comes when you realize you don't have to fix everything. The moment you say, Lord, I trust you even here, heaven begins to move on your behalf. Some miracles only happen after you stop trying to manage the process and let God take over. Surrender is not defeat, it is divine wisdom. It's the recognition that the Creator knows better than the creation. When you hand Him your brokenness, He doesn't return it repaired, He returns it renewed. So if you can't fix it today, don't lose hope. Don't let fear whisper that God has forgotten you. The plan is already written, the path is already marked, and the promise is already sealed. Your tears are not wasted, your prayers are not ignored. God's timing may not match your clock, but His plan will always exceed your expectation. When you cannot fix it, it simply means God is doing something far greater than fixing. He's transforming. Trust Him. Because the moment you release it, heaven begins to write a better ending than you ever imagined. When you come to the end of yourself, when your strength is gone, when your wisdom has failed, when every plan you made has collapsed, it is not the end of your story. It is often the very place where God begins His work. Human limitation is not a tragedy in the kingdom of God. It is an invitation for divine intervention. You see, as long as we believe we can fix everything on our own, we block the very power that is meant to carry us. God allows us to reach moments of limitation not to break us, but to reveal that He is the one who completes us. The moment you realize you can't do it by your own might, you open the door for heaven to move in ways far beyond your imagination. Many people think that God only works when they are strong, when they have enough faith, or when everything is in order. But the truth is, God often does His greatest work in our weakness. When you say, Lord, I have no more to give, He whispers, now let me take over. Remember the widow in the scripture who had only a small jar of oil left. She couldn't fix her situation, her hands were empty, her cupboards bare. Yet in that very moment, God's provision overflowed. Her limitation was the setting for a miracle. When your ability ends, His abundance begins. There's a holy beauty in the end of human effort. It strips away pride, fear, and the illusion of control. God never intended for you to carry the full weight of your battles alone. That's why He calls Himself the helper, the provider, the redeemer. Each of those names reveals His role in what you cannot do. When you hit a wall and find yourself saying, I've tried everything, That's not failure, it's revelation. It's the Spirit showing you that only God can make a way where there seems to be none. You see, if you could fix every problem yourself, you'd never know the sweetness of trusting God. Faith is born in the gap between what you can do and what you cannot. That's where miracles grow. Human limitation creates space for divine manifestation. God delights in stepping into the impossible because that's where His glory shines the brightest. When Moses faced the Red Sea, he couldn't fix it. He had no bridge, no boats, no strategy. Yet in his inability, God parted the waters. The limitation of man became the revelation of God. Often we try to fix things because we fear losing control. We feel anxious when we cannot see the way forward. But God doesn't need your control, He needs your trust. Sometimes He allows you to reach the point of exhaustion so that you stop fighting the battle in your own strength. When you finally let go, His power begins to flow. Like a river breaking through dry ground, His grace fills every place your effort could not reach. When you stop striving, you start receiving. Think about a seed. It has to be buried in darkness before life can emerge. The soil seems to hide it, but in truth, the soil activates it. The pressure, the darkness, the waiting, all of it awakens what's inside. The same is true for you. When you feel buried by problems, when it seems like you're surrounded by situations you can't fix, that's when God is activating something divine within you. Your limitation becomes the soil where His purpose grows. So don't despise the moments when you come to the end of yourself. Don't fear your weakness or your inability to change what's broken. That's the very place where God reveals His strength. Every time you say, I can't fix this, heaven responds, I can. Your limitation is not a curse, it's a clue that God is about to move. When you reach your limit, you are standing at the border of a miracle. All He asks is that you trust Him enough to step aside and let His power complete what your hands cannot. What you see as chaos, confusion, or failure is often the very stage where God is building something extraordinary. The problem with our human eyes is that they only see what is in front of us, but God sees the entire picture. When everything seems to be falling apart, heaven may be silently assembling a greater purpose. The unseen plan of God is far greater than the visible problem before you. You may see a storm, but God sees a pathway through it. You may see destruction, but God sees reconstruction. The trouble that overwhelms you today may be the very tool He uses to shape your tomorrow. We often judge our situation too quickly. When a door closes, we panic. When a plan fails, we mourn. But if you could see what God sees, you would realize that those moments are not the end. They are transitions into His greater design. What looks like a detour is often divine direction. When Joseph was thrown into a pit by his brothers, it looked like a disaster. But in heaven's blueprint, that pit was a stepping stone toward the palace. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every loss was working toward God's hidden plan. Nothing was wasted, not even the pain. The same is true in your life. You may be crying over a job you lost, a relationship that ended, or an opportunity that slipped away. But God is saying, I have something better prepared. Sometimes He hides His plan because if you saw it too early, you might not believe it. His ways are higher because His vision is eternal. You are looking at a single page while He is holding the whole book. The chaos you see is not the end of the story. It's just the messy middle where transformation happens. Think of a builder constructing a house. In the early stages, the ground is torn apart, dust fills the air, and the site looks like ruin. But the builder sees the blueprint. He knows that what looks like destruction is actually preparation for foundation. Likewise, God may be allowing your life to be shaken, not to destroy you, but to lay a stronger base for what's coming next. What you call a breakdown, He calls groundwork. The invisible hand of God is constantly weaving the threads of your story together. Some threads are bright with joy, others are dark with pain. Yet when He weaves them, they form a perfect tapestry. If you saw only one thread, you'd think it had no purpose. But when you step back and view the whole design, you see beauty. Your life is like that. God is weaving even your mistakes, losses, and tears into a masterpiece of grace. The visible problem is only one small part of the unseen purpose. Sometimes God hides His plan to teach you to walk by faith, not by sight. Faith means trusting that even when you don't see progress, something divine is happening behind the curtain. While you are waiting, heaven is working. While you are praying, angels are moving. While you are hurting, God is healing. Nothing in your life escapes His attention. Every tear you shed waters the soil of your next miracle. It's easy to believe that God is working when everything is going well, but true faith shines when nothing makes sense. That's when you must hold on to the truth that God's unseen plan is greater than the visible problem. The battle may look impossible, but He already knows the outcome. The situation may seem hopeless, but He's already written redemption into your story. The fire you're walking through today will refine you, not consume you. So when you face something that doesn't make sense, don't rush to fix it or understand it. Just trust that God is doing something you cannot yet see. Behind every unanswered prayer is a hidden miracle in motion. Behind every delay is divine preparation. And behind every heartbreak is the hand of a loving Father who refuses to give you less than His best. What you see as chaos today is simply the construction zone of God's perfect plan. There are moments in life when everything feels delayed. Your dreams seem to take forever. Your prayers go unanswered and the road ahead appears endless. You begin to wonder if God has forgotten you or if you've somehow missed His blessing. But what if the delay is not a punishment, but a divine redirection? What if God is not denying you, but preparing you for something far greater than what you've asked for? Every delay in God's timing has meaning, and every pause is filled with purpose. What feels like waiting is often heaven's way of aligning your life with divine timing. We live in a world that demands instant results. We want everything now: answers, success, healing, breakthroughs. But God doesn't work on our schedule. He works according to His divine purpose. His timing is not measured by minutes or months, but by maturity. Sometimes God delays what you're praying for because He is shaping you for what's coming. If He gave you everything the moment you asked, you might not be ready to handle it. God is not interested in giving you temporary satisfaction. He's interested in building eternal strength. Think about how Joseph waited 13 long years before stepping into his destiny. Those years were not wasted. They were a divine redirection. He was being prepared in prison for the palace. God used the delay to develop his character, strengthen his faith, and refine his vision. If the answer had come too soon, Joseph might not have had the wisdom or humility to manage the blessing. The delay was not a denial, it was divine preparation. In the same way, the delay in your life may be the hand of God keeping you from something that is good but not yet right. Sometimes God withholds what you want because He is giving you what you need. A delay is heaven's way of saying, wait, there's a better route ahead. You might not see the danger that lies beyond the door you're trying to open, but God does. You might not see how your present struggle is steering you away from harm, but He sees every detail. God's redirections are not rejections, they are acts of protection. Every time He closes one door, it's because He is guiding you toward a greater one. Waiting is one of the hardest lessons of faith. It stretches your patience, tests your endurance, and challenges your trust. But waiting is where spiritual maturity is born. You learn to let go of your timeline and rest in God's. You learn to believe that even when nothing is changing around you, something powerful is changing within you. The waiting season is not wasted. It's the womb of transformation. God uses the delay to strip away fear, pride, and doubt until all that remains is faith. The truth is, God's plan often unfolds slowly because He is not just arranging your circumstances, He's aligning your heart. He is positioning people, opportunities, and resources in ways that you could never orchestrate on your own. When everything finally falls into place, you look back and realize that the delay was not a detour. It was direction. Every not yet was protecting you from something that could have destroyed you. Every wait was preparing you to receive more than you imagined. So when you find yourself in a season of delay, resist the urge to doubt. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Ask, what is God preparing me for? Trust that His timing is perfect. He has never been late, and He never will be. What feels like silence is often God's way of saying, I'm still working. The path may seem slow, but it is sure. You are not stuck. You are being strategically positioned for divine purpose. Remember, a delay is never the end. It's a holy pause before the manifestation of something far greater. When the time is right, no force on earth can stop what God has planned for you. Faith is not the ability to see the path clearly. It is the decision to trust even when everything around you looks uncertain. When the storm is raging, when the doors are closed, when the prayers seem unanswered, faith whispers, God is still at work. It's easy to believe when everything makes sense, but real faith is proven when nothing does. Faith is the bridge between what you cannot fix and what God has already finished. It is the quiet confidence that your eyes cannot see the solution. Your heart knows that heaven is moving behind the scenes. Too often we equate faith with feelings. We think that if we truly believe, we should always feel strong, peaceful, and certain. But faith doesn't depend on emotion. It depends on revelation. You can be trembling and still trusting. You can be crying and still believing. You can be surrounded by darkness and still walk forward, because faith is not about sight, it's about assurance. It believes that God's word is truer than what circumstances say. It knows that the unseen world governs the visible one. When Abraham was told to leave his homeland and go to a place he did not know, he didn't ask for directions or proof. He simply obeyed, because faith rests on the character of God, not the clarity of the path. He didn't need to know where he was going. He only needed to know who was leading him. That's the essence of trust, believing that God's hand is guiding you, even when you can't see his face. Faith does not need the whole map. It only needs one word from God. Sometimes God intentionally keeps certain things hidden from you to strengthen your trust. If you could see every step of the journey, you wouldn't need faith. The mystery of faith is that you often have to move before you understand. You may not see how it will work out, but you take the step anyway, believing that God will meet you halfway. Each act of faith becomes a declaration that you trust his promise more than your perception. That's when miracles begin to happen. When belief overrides logic and trust becomes stronger than fear, faith also teaches you patience. We often want instant answers, but faith grows in the waiting. When nothing changes and you keep believing, that's when your faith deepens roots. Every time you choose to trust instead of panic, to pray instead of complain, you're exercising spiritual muscle. Faith doesn't eliminate the challenge, it empowers you to stand firm through it. Like gold tested in fire, your faith becomes pure when it endures pressure. Remember, faith doesn't always change your situation immediately, but it will always change you. It aligns your heart with God's will, so that even if the outcome looks different from your expectation, you can still say, "It is well." Faith believes that God's no can be just as loving as his yes, because his wisdom exceeds your understanding. The delay, the detour, or the disappointment may all be parts of a greater story that you will only understand later. When Peter saw the storm and began to sink, Jesus didn't let him drown. He reached out his hand. Even little faith is enough to touch the heart of God when it is genuine. It's not the size of your faith that matters, but the object of your faith. When your faith is in yourself, you will fall. But when your faith is in God, he will always lift you. So even when you can't see the outcome, choose to believe that God is working all things together for your good. When you feel lost, trust that he already knows the destination. When you can't fix the problem, have faith that he has already written the solution. Faith doesn't demand proof, it rests in promise. It's the quiet strength that keeps you standing when logic says you should fall, and it's the voice that says, keep walking. God's plan is still unfolding. There is a deep and liberating truth in realizing that peace is not found in control, it is found in surrender. Most people spend their lives trying to manage, fix, and orchestrate everything around them, believing that if they can just make everything perfect, they will finally have peace. But true peace does not come from your ability to control life. It comes from your willingness to release it to God. The more you try to grasp what you were never meant to control, the more frustrated and anxious you become. Peace flows only when you place what you cannot handle into the hands of the one who can. There are times when you've done everything you can, you've prayed, planned, and persisted, and still nothing changes. You feel stuck, powerless, and weary. That is the moment when God calls you to stop striving and start trusting. When you surrender your plans, your fears, and your outcomes to him, something supernatural happens inside you. The weight you've been carrying begins to lift. The storm outside may not calm immediately, but the storm within you begins to settle. Because peace is not the absence of trouble, it is the presence of God in the midst of it. Surrender does not mean giving up, it means giving over. It means saying, God, I may not understand this, but I trust you with it. It's choosing to rest in his wisdom rather than wrestle with your worry. The truth is, control is an illusion. No human being has ever truly been in control. You can plan your steps, but only God can direct your path. When you let go of the need to manage every detail, you make space for him to move in ways beyond your imagination. What you release in faith, God redeems in power. Think of a child learning to swim. As long as the child thrashes in fear, trying to stay above the water, panic takes over. But when the child relaxes and allows the water to hold them, they float effortlessly. The same is true in your walk with God. The more you fight to stay in control, the more you sink in anxiety. But when you surrender, when you lean into his promises and rest in his plan, you rise above the waves. You are never meant to carry every burden. That is why he said, Cast all your cares upon me, for I care for you. Many people believe peace comes after the situation changes, but peace actually begins when your heart changes. It's not about waiting for the storm to end. It's about learning to trust the one who commands the storm. God may not remove the challenge immediately, but He gives you strength to walk through it with calm assurance. He transforms your inner chaos into divine stillness. You begin to realize that surrender is not weakness, it's worship. It's the declaration that God is greater than what you face. When you surrender, you are saying, God, I trust your plan more than my pressure. And that's when miracles begin to unfold. The Israelites found freedom not when they fought Pharaoh with swords, but when they followed God through the Red Sea. Their peace came not from their ability to fight, but from their willingness to follow. Likewise, your peace will come not when you fix everything, but when you trust that God already has everything under control. The enemy wants you to believe that peace depends on outcomes, but peace depends on outlook. As long as your heart is anchored in God, the storms can rage and you can still stand firm. When you surrender, you exchange your anxiety for assurance, your fear for faith, and your restlessness for divine rest. The more you release, the freer you become. Peace is not found in holding tighter. It's found in letting go and letting God write the ending. Because when you finally stop trying to fix everything, you discover that He already had the solution all along. Thank you, my beloved brothers and sisters, for opening your hearts and allowing these words to take root within you today. Remember, no matter what you face or how broken things may seem, God is never absent from your story. When your strength ends, His grace begins. When you can't fix it, He already has a plan. Walk out of here with renewed faith, with peace in your spirit, and with confidence that heaven is working on your behalf. Trust the process, surrender your worries, and let God unfold His perfect design for your life. Until we meet again, stay anchored in hope, walk in faith, and let the peace of God guard your heart. Thank you, and may the Lord bless you abundantly. Goodbye, and remain victorious in His love.